What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel. It is time to give you my official preview and prediction on the college football playoff semifinal matchup between the number 7 seeded Notre Dame Fighting Irish and the number 6 seeded Penn State Nittany Lions. This is the college football playoff semifinal. First matchup of the playoff semifinals. It will be taking place on Thursday night, and it will be the Capital One Orange Bowl. That's where the game will be played at. So I'm going to give you my full preview and prediction on this matchup here. We'll do the other semifinal coming up for you tomorrow. We got Ohio State and Texas coming up next because that's the second playoff game. That's the reason why we're mainly doing this one right here, the first playoff semifinal game. And both games are not on the same day, but I kind of wish they were. But going to give you my prediction here on this game, and I'm going to predict how I think the game is going to go down. I'm going to start with stats, though, for both of these teams, and then we'll take a look at who the favorite in this game is going to be coming up this weekend. Or actually, I should say, this weekend coming up, or I should say on a weekday on Thursday, and then it will continue until Friday. So let's go ahead and get started here with my playoff semifinal matchup prediction here between Notre Dame and Penn State in the Capital One Orange Bowl playoff semifinal. And we'll start with stats here for both of these teams. Starting with Notre Dame, in points per game, this team is averaging 37.7 points per game. Notre Dame doesn't really have a very explosive offense, but this is a team that can really score mainly with their running game. I'll talk about their running game here in just a moment because that's the strength here of this team. But offensively and total yards per game, they still average over 400, over the 400-yard mark, averaging 406.6 yards of total offense. So yeah, this is a Notre Dame offense, again, that's not explosive, but they're at least over the 400-yard mark. And again, that number is at 406.6 yards of total yards. Passing yards per game, this team in the passing game is not really a big strength. They're only averaging 189.1 yards of passing in the passing game. So yeah, Notre Dame doesn't really throw the football that much. They like to run the football a little bit more. Riley Leonard is a veteran quarterback, but he doesn't really throw the football that much, but he can take care of the football pretty well. We've seen Riley Leonard throw sometime, and then sometime he doesn't throw it. But, yeah, this is a Notre Dame team that likes to run the football a little bit more, especially on the offensive side of the football. You look at that rushing yards per game number, 217.5 yards of rushing on the ground. So this is a really good Notre Dame running team. They can run the football pretty well, just like Penn State can do on the other side, which I'll get to here in just a moment. Then you look at the defense. This is the strength here of this overall team, is their defense. Passing yards allowed per game in the secondary. This team giving up 167.4 yards of passing allowed in the secondary. And if you look at the standings, I believe Notre Dame has like a top 10 secondary in the country, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, this is a really good Notre Dame secondary, and they're only giving up 167.4 yards of passing allowed per game. In rushing yards allowed per game, this team about average at stopping the run, 127.9 yards of rushing allowed per game. That's not a bad number. Notre Dame's just got overall a pretty good defense, though, according to the rankings. Then you look at both sides of the football. In the rankings, though, in the country, offensively in the ranking in the country, they're 49th on offense. So like I mentioned, they're not a very explosive offense, but they can score points with definitely their running game. But defensively, that's the strength overall in this team, overall in the team and everything. Defensively in the rankings, they're 8th on defense. So that's a look at the stats there for Notre Dame. Let's now move on to Penn State. In points per game, they're averaging a little bit lesser than Notre Dame at 33.7, but you look at that points per game number. This is a lot better compared to last year. This is a much more better offensive Penn State team that we've seen. In the last couple years, they maybe weren't as good as we thought they were going to be, but this year with a new offensive coordinator, that's been a lot different. Total yards per game on the offensive side of the football, this team averaging 436.3 yards of total offense, so a little bit better than Notre Dame actually, but I think both offenses are actually pretty even in total yards per game on offensively and offensively and total yards per game. And passing yards per game, just a little bit better, way better than Notre Dame, I should say. 234.1 yards of passing yards per game. Drew Allar's had a pretty good season. He's been throwing the football a lot more this year compared to last year, and then also he's been taking care of the football as well. Rushing yards per game, though, that's the strength here of this offense. offense for Penn State, and just like I talked about it with Notre Dame, both of these teams can run the football pretty well. They're averaging 202.2 yards of rushing yards on the ground, so yeah, both of these teams can run the football pretty well on the offensive side of the football. Passing yards allowed per game on the defensive side of the football, Penn State giving up 187.9 yards of passing. That's not a bad number either. That's just about average as well. You know, both of these teams differently in the defensive game. Passing yards allowed, you know, that's really good for Notre Dame, but, you know, rushing yards allowed. Penn State's only giving up 100.9 yards of rushing allowed. So this is a really good defensive line, and then offensively and defensively in the rankings for Penn State. They're 25th on offense, and then defensively in the rankings, they're 6th on defense. So both of these teams ranked in the top 10 on defense, and then offensively, I mean, Penn State does have an advantage on the offense, but I think both offenses are actually pretty even, especially at running the football. All right, let's now take a look at the game preview here of this one. Again, it's the playoff semifinal matchup between Notre Dame and Penn State. Number 7 versus number 6 seed. The game's going to be held this Thursday night, so this will be the first playoff semifinal matchup. Both semifinal games are on different dates. I kind of wish they were both on the same day, but we get this one on Thursday night at 7:30 Eastern Time on ESPN. Spread going in favor of Notre Dame here by 2 points. That's about it, 2 points, and the over and under at 45.5. So a very close spread there. You know, I'm not really surprised that Notre Dame is favored here, to be honest, because I feel like Notre Dame with their running game, they kind of been just overall the better team, you know, for the rest of the time being here in this college football season. You look at where this Notre Dame team has been, you know, ever since that Week 2 loss to Northern Illinois, we were counting them out of the playoff. You know, a lot of people thought their playoff hopes were going to be over if they lost another game, but they've been on a winning streak ever since that Week 2 loss to Northern Illinois. So this Notre Dame team is pretty much hot going into this game against Penn State. Penn State, they have played a couple of playoff games already, and they have played pretty well. You know, you look at, you know, their first 2 games of the playoff. They defeated SMU 38-10. That was a blowout there, but Boise State, that game was close in the first half, but second half Penn State pretty much pulled away. You know, that was a game where Penn State definitely made Boise State, like, you know, made a lot of mistakes there. So yeah, both of these teams have 13 wins on the year. I think this is going to be a pretty close game. Again, Notre Dame is favored here. The FBI also does favor Notre Dame by a big percentage. I can't remember what the percentage was, but I know it was at Notre Dame's favorite. So yeah, Notre Dame is the favorite here, so no surprise here. I mean, I don't think it's really a big surprise that Notre Dame is favored. Again, I think both teams are pretty even at running the football. Like I said, I think both teams, that'll be the key here for both of these teams, is running the football. And whoever wins that running game, whoever outgains the rushing attack, I think that team is going to win it. So that is what the playoff semifinal format's looking like. Again, it's a 7:30 kickoff time, and it will be held on Thursday night, January the 9th, on ESPN, and the over and under at 45.5. And again, Notre Dame is favored by 2. Let's now move on to look at both teams' previous games for 2024 to 25. But, you know, Notre Dame's record, we're still in 2024, but 2024 record is 13-1. Again, their last loss came in Week 2 of the 2024 regular season against Northern Illinois. First off, they defeated Virginia back on November 16th, 35-14. Blew out Army 49-14 on November 23rd. And in a rivalry weekend, they closed things out with a win over USC 49-35. Then you look at their first 2 playoff games. They defeated Indiana at home. Remember, they hosted a first-round playoff game on December the 20th. That was actually the first game of the playoff, of the 12-team playoff era. They won this game 27-17. So you're probably thinking that was a close game, but when you look at the score in the first half, it wasn't really that close. And Notre Dame's defense gave Indiana a lot of problems in that game. And then just this past weekend on January the 2nd, remember, this game got postponed until like Thursday due to the tragedy at New Orleans, but they defeated Georgia 23-10. I was really impressed with Notre Dame's defense in this game, and I also would say the running game kind of was the difference here. We saw Riley Leonard make some big-time running plays as well, and that kind of gave Georgia's defenses some problems. And we've seen under Kirby Smart, and also with defenses under Georgia with Kirby Smart, that does give Georgia's defenses trouble if a dual-threat quarterback does run at their defense. looking at Penn State, they come in with a record of 13-2. They won on the road at Minnesota on November 23rd, 26-25, and definitely a close trap game there. Defeated Maryland 44-7 in their last game of the regular season. And just think about it, if Penn State did lose to Minnesota, they probably would not be in this position where they're at today. They probably would have not made it to the Big Ten championship. But you look at that Big Ten championship, they lost to Oregon in a close one, 45-37. Of course, the Ducks just got eliminated by the Ohio State Buckeyes in the playoff quarterfinals. And they defeated SMU in their first round playoff game, 38-10. That was a blowout there, so a pretty easy win for Penn State just because they were playing at home. And then they defeated Boise State just this past weekend on that Friday, New Year's Eve, or actually on that weekday on Tuesday. On New Year's Eve, 31-14. So they won that game right there. And their first two playoff games have been pretty easy wins for Penn State. But I got to tell you, this will definitely be their toughest playoff game that they played up to date so far. And now let's get to my official prediction here for this college football playoff semifinal matchup. Again, it's Notre Dame taking on Penn State, the first playoff game on that Thursday. 7:30 Eastern time. Again, spread going in favor of Notre Dame by 2, and the over and under at 45.5. So you look at both of these teams, like I mentioned, according to the stats, both teams are really good at running the football. I think that's going to be the key moment here for both of these teams. They're going to want to run the football here on both of their defenses. Penn State definitely has a better defense than Notre Dame, a better defensive line, if I'm not mistaken, but secondary advantage definitely goes to Notre Dame. I think it's really going to come down to turnovers. Whoever can force the most turnovers in this game is definitely going to probably win this game as well, but I think it's also going to come down to the rushing game. Whoever outgains, in the rushing game, I think that team is going to win it. And I think that team is going to be Notre Dame. And like I said, I know Notre Dame's had their ups and downs. I know people are kind of, projecting that Penn State will win this game by a big margin, but I kind of expect a close game. I think it's a low-scoring defensive battle, and I think it's going to come down to the rushing game, like I said, for both of these teams. With that being said, I do like Notre Dame's running game a little bit more. I think Riley Leonard running the football is mainly going to hurt Penn State's defensive line, and I also think the secondary, if Notre Dame probably throws the football a little bit here in this game, the secondary of Penn State might be a weakness there on the defensive side of the football, but I got to go with Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame wins it here 24-21. Again, I think it's a close game, but I do like Notre Dame's running game a little bit more than Penn State's. I think it's, like I said, going to come down to whoever outgains in the rushing game and whoever can force the most turnovers as well. But I think this is a one-possession game. It comes down to the wire because we haven't really had a lot of close games in the 12-team playoff era except for one game so far, but I got to go with Notre Dame here, 24-21. I think they do just enough in the running game, and they outgain Penn State in the rushing game as well. So that's my official preview and prediction on the college football playoff semifinal matchup between Notre Dame and Penn State. Again, my prediction is Notre Dame 24, Penn State 21. Thank you guys for watching this video. Let me guys know what you think about this prediction, and also give me your prediction for this game down in the comments below. Thanks for watching this video. Stay tuned for more sports content videos on my Lucas Ross Sports YouTube channel.